Hey guys, it's Britt. Tonight I'm here to talk to you about James Charles being sister sued. This news just came out and you guys wanted to know what I thought about it. So if you're interested, please keep watching. All right, you guys, so this is very, very new. I don't hear a lot of people talking about it, but it definitely speaks, in my opinion, of course, this speaks to a larger problem with YouTubers and influencers, where basically what's going on right now is James Charles' former assistant is suing him for everything from failure to pay all wages upon separation, failure to provide minimum wage compensation. This is someone who's a multi-millionaire. Like, how is this even allegedly happening? Failure to provide overtime and double time compensation, waiting time penalties, disability discrimination. And then it keeps going. Failure to provide reasonable accommodation, failure to engage in good faith interactive process, retaliation, another retaliation. One is under the California code and one is under the labor code, and then wrongful termination. I'm not going to read the whole document because I've said before, I think reading court documents, like, I'm not an attorney, so reading a court document is sort of boring to me. This really speaks to a bigger problem. This was James Charles's former assistant. Assistants in that world are very, very normal. So that's not the thing that makes it different or unique. I believe, just speculation, that there are so many personal assistants that are mistreated by these YouTubers or people that are wealthy and need a personal assistant. I believe that there are so many things that happen behind the scenes where we don't see lawsuits all of the time, because upon termination of employment, in my opinion, what I think happens a lot of times is there is a severance package put together by the YouTuber or the influencer for the personal assistant. So then they can say, I'm giving you this severance if you sign this agreement that you're not going to sue me, and we can just part ways and it be a clean break. That's pure speculation, but I would not be surprised at all if that's what happens, because then things like this would be coming to the forefront much more often. Do you know how many employment agreements go sour between, wealthy people and people that they have working for them? Whether it's a personal assistant, someone like a housekeeper, or, hell, even like a landscaper. There are many things that can go on behind the scenes where the employee would have grounds to sue the person, but if they sign an agreement saying, I'm accepting this $30,000 as a severance package, I'm not going to come back to you and sue you. And that's the end of our, professional relationship. So of course, again, that's just me speculating, but I believe that so many of these YouTubers, you guys, like, I talk about this all the time on my channel for a reason. I believe that there are so many of these YouTubers and influencers who were not, either they weren't taught or they just don't care about common decency and common respect when it comes to forming professional relationships with people. Many of them got famous at the age of as young as 15, 16, some of them. Look at some of these TikTokers that are now worth millions of dollars over the past couple of years. So you have these extremely wealthy people hiring people to be a part of their team, and because they got famous so young, and or because they weren't taught the way that you treat people, not just when they're working for you, but just day to day. I see so many of these just rude, entitled people who run around, and I can only imagine what it would be like working for them. And what, even if you are getting paid, doesn't matter whether you are working for free or you just pass the person on the sidewalk. Everyone deserves the common human decency, and I believe that it is lacking so very much with so many of these influencers. All right, so we're going to skim through this document. I will insert my opinions throughout, and I have not read it before, so I'm learning about this along with you guys. So it starts out by saying plaintiff Kelly Rocklin is an individual who was employed by defendants James Charles Dickinson and Sister Sister LLC in Los Angeles in the state of California. Oh, and she also was a personal assistant for Erica Costell, which she used to date Jake Paul, and she was part of Team 10. Don't care for her, but evidently this Kelly girl was working with Erica as well. Things went sour and she sued Erica. So this is her second go around with suing YouTubers that were former employers. Okay, let's go through the statement of facts, because some of this other stuff is just, you know, y'all can read the full document if you want to. Statement of facts. This case presents the compelling story of a hardworking employee who was terminated by Sister Sister in retaliation for her medical condition and her engagement in protected activity in relation to her former employer, Costell Enterprises. That's Erica Costell's LLC. On April 2nd, 2018, Ms. Rocklin began her employment with Sister Sister as a video editor. Throughout the initial period of her employment, Mrs. Rocklin was consistently praised for her hard work, dedication, and talent by Mr. Dickinson, James Charles, owner and operator of Sister Sister. On July 9th, 2018, in recognition of her stellar performance, Ms. Rocklin was promoted to producer of Sister Sister. Some people are saying personal assistant. In this document, we're seeing other titles, but I'm sure that she was doing a wide range of things to help James. Ms. Rocklin gladly accepted the position. However, after promoting Ms. Rocklin, Sister Sister never hired a replacement editor, which required Ms. Rocklin to perform both roles simultaneously. I can't imagine, I mean, I assume that she was working an insane amount of hours every week. Okay, this required Ms. Rocklin to work upwards of 12 hours per day and 7 days a week to meet the ongoing production needs of Sister Sister. That is wild. But you know, I think that this is very normal in YouTube world. There's sort of like no set schedule. Like when I go to work, I work 8 to 5. And some nights I stay late, and in the evening sometimes I'll have to, you know, take care of something from home. But there is a set schedule. When you're doing YouTube, you might be up editing at 2 o'clock in the morning. That is not normal to create this kind of work environment where you're expected to respond to a text at 2 a.m. or be editing a video at 10 p.m. It sort of seems like the work structure really lacks, because there's just so much expectation to pump out the content. Who cares if you're online at 8 p.m. on a Saturday? It doesn't matter. Ms. Rocklin informed defendants that these grueling hours were unsustainable and requested the editor position to be filled. Ms. Rocklin also informed defendants that she was not being paid overtime wages. So we're talking about someone working allegedly 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, not being paid overtime. Sounds like she wasn't even being paid a reasonable salary, and working around the clock 7 days a week. Throughout her employment with Sister Sister, Ms. Rocklin never received any wages for any of the overtime hours that she had worked. In response, Mr. Dickinson promised that he would repay Ms. Rocklin by providing her a raise in 6 months' time that would compensate her for the unpaid overtime premiums. This is ridiculous. Let's go back. We're talking about an influencer, James Charles. Let me get his estimated net worth. This is someone who has an estimated net worth of $22 million. And we are talking about not paying people for overtime, not wanting to hire additional staff where it's desperately needed, overworking the one person that's filling multiple roles, and then you want to say, oh, I'll pay you back in 6 months. What is this girl going to do when her rent is due and when her phone bill is due? No reasonable employer says, I'll get you, I'll get you this summer with a raise. No. Miss Rocklin's incredibly long working hours began to take a toll on her physical and emotional well-being. Absolutely, I can see that. She continued to raise these concerns to defendants and implored them to hire a new editor so she could return to normal working hours. Nevertheless, a new editor was never hired during Miss Rocklin's tenure with Sister. I look at the alleged, lack of empathy that James is having for someone who's working for him, not only financially, but when mental health and physical health concerns are brought to his attention, ignoring them. I also go back to the Bye Sister video and all of the hurt and anguish that James was going through during that period of time with his mental health and his physical health, I imagine. And then to have someone who you are overworking, underpaying, not paying her what she is owed, and she comes to you and says, these are the problems, please hire me help, I am going through emotional turmoil, mental health issues, and he's going to ignore that, probably assuming that it would never come out. On September 4th, 2018, Miss Rocklin suffered a head injury while in the presence of Mr. Dickinson that resulted in her experiencing headaches, temporary loss of consciousness, confusion, amnesia, dizziness, ringing in her ears, nausea, vomiting, slurred speech, delayed responses, fatigue, difficulty concentrating, sensitivity to light and noise, sleep disturbances, psychological adjustment problems, anxiety, and depression. What in the world? What kind of, maybe we'll find out, but I don't know what kind of injury that was, but that is super scary. Just to have one of those side effects after hitting your head, I would be literally having a meltdown. This injury resulted in Miss Rocklin's losing consciousness and being admitted to the emergency room via ambulance. Miss Rocklin's hospitalization caused her to miss time at work and caused delays in meeting video production goals. I mean, this girl obviously went through a major injury, so maybe if James had other people that were working with him, he would have, he should have told this girl, you just had a massive, head injury, take a month off, I will help you however you can, or however I can. Was James even providing health insurance to this girl? Like, how did she pay for it? Rather than showing any concern or empathy for Miss Rocklin's serious medical condition, Mr. Dickinson callously accused her of not being dedicated to her job as a result of her work being delayed while she was hospitalized. James, hello. Most people, when they have, an injury or some sort of health issue, their employer allows them to take time off, and that's why you hire multiple people. It sounds like to me, in my opinion, James wanted to hire one person and one person only, not pay them very much, and have them do everything. Instead of having multiple people that knew how to do the same thing, why don't you have two people that know how to edit videos and two people that know how to decipher or dissect your contracts and all of this kind of stuff. Upon returning to work, Mr. Dickinson conveyed a meeting with Miss Rocklin wherein he chastised her for falling behind on video production during the period she was tending to her medical condition. That's disgusting. Specifically, Mr. Dickinson informed Miss Rocklin that he was disappointed with the fact that production projects were not completed while Miss Rocklin was hospitalized. I mean, what in the world is he thinking? I truly don't understand this, you guys. Like, any person that can think with a little bit of logic would figure, okay, someone's not feeling well, Don't expect a whole lot of work out of them, especially with an injury like this. Mr. Dickinson went as far as to say, I want to be your friend, but I'm your employer, and the fact that your health was the reason why the video didn't go up doesn't make it a reason for an upload to not take place. Or words to a similar effect. Wow. You guys, I think in between all of this stuff surrounding James, it is really showing how a lot of these people are behind the scenes. And I'm not talking about the essays stuff, but just the really toxic work environments, the entitlement, the narcissism. It's all too much. Concurrent with Mr. Dickinson's in-person disregard for Miss Rockland's medical condition, he would send her text messages stating her health condition was important to him. So he's trying to play both sides of the fence. He definitely doesn't want to lose her as an employee because it sounds like he is vastly understaffed and doesn't want to do anything for himself. But he is also obviously very upset that stuff's not getting done. Miss Rockland texted Mr. Dickinson regarding his duplicity, questioning why he appeared considerate of her medical condition in text while reportedly chastising her for missing time during in-person conversations. Well, that's because in-person conversations are not detectable because they happen just between two people. It's pretty obvious the manipulation that he's doing here by being able to say, oh, well, I have the receipts to show that I was really nice to this girl, but then in person, when nobody else is around, being an asshole. Mr. Dickinson responded by denying that the in-person conversation occurred, stating, messages like this make me question whether or not you are actually 120% invested in the team. Why should she even be 1% invested? She's not even being paid for overtime. She's working until her knuckles bleed, allegedly. And on top of that, she's not even being paid a decent salary. Let's not even get into the overtime factor. She's not even being compensated fairly. On September 11, 2018, Miss Rockland was readmitted to the hospital for a fourth time in connection with her head injury. Miss Rockland's treating physician diagnosed her with a concussion and instructed her to take a week off in order to recover. Totally normal to do. Miss Rockland informed Mr. Dickinson of her medical condition and need for leave of absence. Mr. Dickinson responded by stating he knew Miss Rockland's close friend was in town and that she would enjoy her week off with her, implying that Miss Rockland was not being truthful concerning her head injury and need for accommodations in connection therewith. This is ridiculous, you guys. Like, no normal employer is going to, if you say to your boss, now I'm not saying every single person, but for the most part, if you go to your boss and you say, I had a head injury, I need to take some time off, they're not going to be like, oh, well, I saw on your Instagram that your friend is in town and y'all are probably just going out to party. No. You ask for time off, you get the time off. If you have sick time, you use it. If not, you take it without pay. But no employer is going to do this. Most employers aren't going to do this. Come on. On September 19, 2018, immediately upon Miss Rockland's return from medical leave, Sister's sister callously informed her that she was being terminated due to poor performance. So leading up to this entire time, you supposedly have a girl who's working very hard, underpaid, underappreciated, suffers a major head injury, it sounds like, needs to take some time off work, is ridiculed and basically called a liar, and upon her return is fired for poor performance, even though leading up to all of that, she was praised for it. Notably, prior to her medical condition, Sister's sister never took issue with Miss Rockland's performance and had instead just recently promoted her to producer. Exactly. In fact, 2 days prior to her concussion, Mr. Dickinson had showered Miss Kelly with praise due to her excellent performance. Thus, any perceived performance issues were a direct result of Miss Rockland's concussion, repeated hospitalization, and inability to work the grueling schedule defendants demanded of her during this time period. On May 21st, 2018, Ms. Rockland made a request for employment files from her prior employer, Costell Enterprises. That's Erica Costell's business. On June 20th, 2018, Nixon Peabody LLP responded to the records request. Coincidentally, Nixon Peabody LLP, specifically a partner at the firm, Ellie Altschuler, happens to also represent Sister. Interesting. Ms. Rockland is informed and believes, and based thereon alleges, that her termination was substantially motivated by Sister becoming aware that she had engaged in protected activity, namely requesting her employment records from Costell Enterprises and her contemplated legal action against the company. And then it goes into the discussing the no overtime pay and all of that kind of stuff. This is just, I'm not going to keep reading the document. You guys can read it in full if you're interested, but really this really does speak to a larger issue. And if these YouTubers are going to, you know, if we're going to continue making really dumb people popular, then, you know, I feel like there needs to be a little bit more structure when someone is hiring an in-house employee to pay them as a video editor or personal assistant or any of these things, because there are a lot of people that would love the opportunity to work with James Charles. Maybe not now, but before, yes. Same with many of these other YouTubers. And for someone to unknowingly walk into a situation like that, where they're all of a sudden working for someone that they know from YouTube seems really cool and nice, but then the work environment is toxic as all hell, they're being underpaid, they're overworked, they are not being compensated for overtime, they're expected to answer the phone at 3 a.m., they're up editing videos at all hours of the night. All of this kind of stuff, there just needs to be some sort of resolution, because one of two things are going to happen. Either it's going to continue and YouTubers are going to fire employees, give them a severance package of a healthy amount of money, and ask them to sign an agreement that they're not going to get sued, or we're going to continue seeing lawsuits like this one play out on the internet. Now, I'm not saying that every single YouTuber is like this. Obviously, there are some good ones out there, but it does seem like the former employees of a lot of YouTubers, the ones that do come out and speak about it, it's a lot of, you know, horrible culture. The YouTuber was the worst person they've ever worked for. And I realize that there might be some fabrication, or people sue people all the time. It doesn't mean that everything is true, but I always talk about patterns. And when you see a repeated pattern of behavior from an influencer or a YouTuber, then I think that that's a conversation that needs to be had. Maybe there needs to be laws in every state to say, you're hiring employees now, you also have to hire an HR representative. So an HR person is not necessarily on site, but they are very in tune with what's going on. And it also gives the employees an outlet to say, look, I'm not being paid for overtime. And if I'm not paid for it, I'm going to sue. So, you know, just to have someone else besides the creator as, you know, someone to have the employees' best interest at heart, while also making sure that the YouTuber isn't being taken advantage of. I do think that there needs to be some sort of change happen, but I don't think that we're going to necessarily see it unless it's an actual law that's put into action. So those are kind of my thoughts on this. I am not surprised at all by this, because these are the beauty gurus, these are the influencers. And like I said, whether or not it's a lack of, you know, lessons during their upbringing, or if it's just the pure entitlement and they kind of leave their morals at the door once they hit 1 million subscribers or whatever, I don't know what it is, but sadly, I'm not surprised. And even sadder, there are a lot of people who are just stuck in the middle and don't know what to do, so they sue. But anyway, that's it for now. If you like the video, please leave a like and a comment. And if you'd like to see more from me in the future, please subscribe. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.